the reason we didn't win the title was because I didn't work hard enough, or I wasn't dedicated enough, or I didn't commit enough hours to the project, to the training, to the planning, to the organization. No way.
It's going to do your head in.
Yeah, it's got to do your head in. So you're thinking, how do we get those marginal gains? How do we get that extra couple of percent or 0.5% that makes us better than everybody else over the course of 38 games? And listen, that's there's no magic beans in football, right? Unless you like uncover the next Messi or something like that, and then you're just like, well, you do it.
You got your own cheat code.
Yeah, exactly. But that's lightning in a bottle kind of stuff. It just doesn't happen, really, So I think for Mikel Arteta as well, it'll be really, really pleasing that he proved to himself that. I'm sure he knew he could do it, but until you do it, you have those doubts, and that's just normal and it's human. And I thought it was actually quite important, for him to talk about that openly and to admit it, because you talk about.
Shows you're human. It's a reminder that you're human. I know people know this, but they forget these footballers and managers are human beings like us. They go through moments of confidence, moments where they've lost it, etc.
Yeah. Exactly. And we've all been through the whole range of human emotions, and we've all shed a few tears over the last few weeks in various ways and for various reasons. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. If something makes you happy enough to cry, embrace that, because, you don't get that very often. You don't get that very often in your life. Those moments are rare. So enjoy them and cherish them. But I do like that sort of human connection has been sort of a line running through all of this, from fans to players to manager. I think it's great.
And that's the thing for Arteta. Like, I've always described him as a winner. I've always described the players as a winner, but I've not had the leg to stand on, admittedly, because we've always been so close yet so far. And I have to, prior to obviously winning the Premier League, I do praise the manager, the coaching staff, and the players, because they're human. They've gone through the emotions, as you suggested, but they've always got up and gone again. But I did not want this season to end with that familiar feeling at whatever point only these players could tell us when they've been in that dressing room or been at the training ground and say, you know what, the title's actually gone. I think they needed this for everything we've discussed so far, but for themselves, because this whole project's been geared up towards winning. And now you've got a leg to stand on. Now you've shown it can be done. You've probably felt hard done by. You've probably felt incredibly unlucky at several points, but I guess in life, everything happens for a reason. So I'm happy they got it done. And I do think with Mikel Arteta, he's with him getting that first one over. I don't think. Obviously, I think he wants to win, but I've always felt he's had that confidence, regardless of if he's got Premier League titles or whatever. But it's just confirmation that what you're doing is working, what we're doing is working. And once you get it's like tasting the best steak in the world, I guess, for the first time. You want to eat it again and again and again. And I do feel, for as much as rivals and pundits have given us that, given us a lot of stick, I do think in their heart of hearts, they've known once we get that one monkey off our back, that one dark cloud around not winning a Premier League under Arteta or ending that 22-year drought. I'm not suggesting for a second we're going to win it from every time from now to the end of time, but when that weight's lifted off, it's going to be scary, but not for Arsenal fans. And for me as well, going back to what you said as well, because you asked me a very good question. I did think it was surreal seeing us go back to South London and lift the Premier League. And also I like what Berta's been doing. I like what Arteta's been doing. I love these players. But the Cronkies, like, they've not had the best of reps at this football club. We've had protests, etc., etc. So to see how Josh Kroenke's been speaking, to see his words actually match up with actions, and to see him on the parade, honestly, Andrew, I never thought we would ever get here as a football club where we're all on the same hymn sheet from top to bottom. So I can only applaud everyone. So I'm happy Arteta got it done, because I do think he wants to get it more and more. That's another question I want to ask you as well. Obviously, you ain't got a crystal ball. You could look at this two ways, in that the element of unknown could make you a bit scared, or it could make you more confident. But I think one thing Arsenal have is we've obviously won the Premier League. We've got stability. We've got a good core. You go and look at Chelsea, Manchester United, everybody that's a traditional top six rival apart from us. There's a degree of uncertainty either about their manager, about their playing squad, about if they'll qualify for the Champions League, let alone win the Premier League. So it's like, do you feel, on a bit of a double-edged question, do you feel there's no time like the present and it's our time to strike and, as you said earlier, do something we ain't done in retain the Premier League? And do you feel we can run away with the league next year? Because I wouldn't, when I say run away, I'm not talking about 20 points, but on paper, I think we've got a good chance if we hit the ground running.
I think it really is a case that, you know, when you win it and when you're clearly, I think we were the best team in the Premier League last season. I think,
100%.
you know, there was probably an argument that in 23-24, we were very close to being the best team when we missed out on a point to Man City that time.
Horrible.
I think, you know, what you've got now is a group of players who, for the most part, are in their prime. You know, Gabriel, Saliba, Rice, Ødegaard, Saka, Gyökeres, Eze, you know, Timber, Calafiori, and Capie, you know, Lewis Skelly. Well, Lewis Skelly's still quite young, obviously, but generally speaking, Zubimendi, right? And I think if Arsenal augment the squad properly, then I think we have a great chance because we are established. And like you say, everyone else is still, like Carrick is going to have to build at Manchester United.
It's a full season now, Carrick.
You know, full season, and he's not playing 40 games. You know, they're not playing once a week. They're going to have to play every 3 days. Chelsea, like you say, are a bit mental, a bit of a basket case. I think Xabi Alonso is a good appointment, but they still have work to do, right? Manchester City, new manager. Pep's gone. We know what it's like when a manager who, you know, has been there a long time and who is like foundational or fundamental to the way that
and legendary,
you know, and that's another aspect of Arteta winning the title this season, is that he did beat Pep Guardiola before he left. I think that's important for Arteta. You know, they all have work to do. Liverpool, new manager coming in, Andoni Iraola, a really good appointment, and they've got a lot of talent in that Liverpool squad, but they also have issues to sort out because Salah is going and Van Dijk is getting older and Kanate is leaving, so they still have some rebuilding to do. And it feels like Arsenal are right now at this moment in time, you know, not a team that needs to do a lot of rebuilding. We need to add. We're going to see some players coming in. We're going to see a couple of players going. We have the ability financially and in terms of the pull now, because we are the champions, to really add quality. You know, we shouldn't have a
place to be.
Exactly. We shouldn't have any difficulty convincing any player who's realistically available to come to Arsenal if that's what they want to do. So I think that's, you know, that is an advantage. The World Cup, I said, is a bit of an equalizer because so many players are going to be away and so many players are going to be involved until the later stages. That will have an impact. There's no two ways 100%. About it. But I think if we get the recruitment right, then we can offset that because we've added the quality that we need, and we can maybe give some of the players a little bit of a rest, and then they're ready to go. I think it is an opportunity. The next 2-3 years are an opportunity for Arsenal to really sort of become firmly established as one of the best teams, not just in the Premier League, but in Europe. And let's not forget, you know, how we've progressed in the Champions League from quarterfinal to semi-final. You know, let's keep that trajectory going, because if we do it, we're going to win it next year, you know. I know it's not as I know it's not as easy as that, but it is true that having spent 6 or 7 years out of the Champions League, we hit the ground running in that competition straight away.
Arteta's got it bang on in that.
We did not lose a game in the Champions League until the last kick of the final. So, you know, that tells you a lot about how good Arsenal are. You know,
we're that close.
Premier League, and we're that close. We're that close. We'll get there. We'll do it. I'm convinced we'll do it. I'm convinced.
I'll make you right as well, Andrew, because like it's gonna sound mad because yes, we didn't win the Champions League and our record in Europe, and you know, in my lifetime, I've seen 3 European finals. We are on. Oh, what happened to Andrew there? Oh, what happened? But yeah, we'll wait for Andrew to come back. But as I was saying, as I was saying there, I've seen 3 finals, but I know we didn't win it. And I do know that certain things have to change with Mikel Arteta in an attacking sense, people. But I've never been more convinced that we can win a Champions League. I've never been more convinced. Oh, we've got him back.
But I don't know what happened there.
Minor. We was worried for a sec. It's all good, man.
I can't remember what you were saying. We were talking about Europe and going the distance in the Champions
League. I was saying like for me personally, it's like obviously I've seen us get to 3 finals. We've not got over the line. but I've never been more convinced that we can get over the line. Of course, there is an element of, you, like you alluded to, we don't know what next season is going to look like. I do think at some point you have to seize the present. And I do think a lot of things, we earned a lot of things that worked in our favor. And as you said, we didn't lose a game. And I know it's deeper than this, but as much as people want to talk about us, at the end of the day, we played the European champions, the defending European champions, and lost on penalties. There was things they reckon they probably could have done better. We probably needed to do better. We just go back to the drawing board. And there's been a year in, year out trajectory. And one thing I like with Arteta is he has got it spot on, even down to the last 2 years when it's confirmed that we're through in the league phase. We're saying, oh, why is Saliba out there? Why is Gabriel out there? Now you kind of know. People will be disingenuous in the sense of our run to the final. And of course, I understand it. We earned that. We earned that more favorable run. We still had to go and win it. But I always query and say, of course, on paper, buying Leverkusen, Sporting Lisbon, Atletico Madrid, that isn't like PSG facing a Chelsea or a Liverpool. I get that. But it's probably the worst Liverpool side I've seen in the last 3 to 5 years. The Chelsea, this is one of the worst Chelsea sides I've seen in my life, actually, relative to expectations. So you could argue PSG's run wasn't really that. Both teams can only play what's in front of them. We didn't win. We go again, in it. There's small and fine margins that.
Hey, like you say, the reason we got that favorable draw, well, it was partly just random in the draw, but the reason we were, at home in the second leg for every game was because we won every game in the group stage. And people will say, yeah, it's only Kairat and it's only whoever. But hang on. We spanked Atletico Madrid 4-0. We beat Bayern Munich 3-1. We beat Inter Milan away from home. They weren't all also rounds, so anybody's trying to play down what we did in the Champions League this season, and in particular the final. Take a running jump, in my opinion, because this was a PSG side that stuck 6 goals past Bayern Munich in the semi-final. They got a penalty. It was a bit unfortunate from Mascara. I don't think they score if we don't give them that penalty. I genuinely don't think they do. So close. And those are the fine margins, and people can say, oh, yeah, you should be playing differently. Listen. You play differently.
Against PSG, what's going to happen?
You play. Look at the semi-final. Look what Bayern did.
Exactly.
Give me a break.
People are just disingenuous when it comes to our club, bro. That same logic is like Cape Verde against Spain. If they open up, they don't have a historic result.
Exactly. Be serious.
Right, but people are never going to be serious. People love to be intentionally stupid when it comes to our football club. You got a question, Andrew, on the screen, and it kind of ties into what we're kind of discussing. Hi, Andrew. Big fan. Massive love to Arseblog, your legendary career. My question, if last summer was quantity for adding to the team to get over the EPL, this summer will be quality to get over the Champions League. So I guess he means like last season was about getting over the line in terms of recruitment in the Prem. Yeah. Is this year about the champs? Where are you at on that?
I think what we did was add the depth last summer, and we made sure that we had a squad big enough. And we had injuries this season and we coped, pretty well. To win the Premier League and get to the Champions League final suggests that you built your squad in a pretty strong and robust way. I do think there might be, some tweaking going on. We look at the left-hand side and some of the names that are being linked there, and you maybe look at for example, Christian Norgard, who didn't really play in the Premier League last season. Do we need a player to come in and play in the Premier League? Will it be Miles Lewis-Skelly, or will they go into the market? I think what it is now is we've sort of raised the bar. It's a bit like Arteta saying he was the guy to get them to here. Now can we get them to here? And I think that's kind of what we're looking for. And we're looking for in terms of the profile of player that we bring in. And not every player is going to be a star signing. I don't think you have to make a star signing in every position, but I think what you've got to look at is just adding qualities to the team that maybe you don't already have. And you look at, Morgan Rogers, for example, a player we've been linked with. His finishing ability from inside and outside the box is unbelievably good. Barcola, I know people might talk about whether or not he is the right fit. Scored yesterday. What a great finish. What a great run. When you look at this Arsenal team and you think, like, what is something that we don't have enough of? To me, it's that sort of blistering pace. And he's got that, and maybe it's not something you need as much when teams sit deep against you, but I also think it is a weapon that you need to have in your armory. We have a little bit with Gabriel Martinelli, who's very quick, but not quite as quick as some of those guys. So I think what we're looking at is adding different qualities and again, just sort of augmenting what we have and making sure that we've got the ability to go the distance, not just in the Premier League, but in the Champions League. Maybe you get to a point next season where, if things aren't going as well as we would like in the Premier League, you focus a little more on the Champions League because that's the one you haven't won. But ideally, win the Premier League and win the Champions League. That's a double I think we came very close to. And I think that might be just part of the motivation for the season ahead, is to etch your name into the history books as players who've done a double for Arsenal, but different from the double in 71 or different from the double in 98 or 2002. This is
making history now.
Yeah, this is a chance to make real history. Yeah.
And it will be scary, but not for us, because when we did lose that Champions League, I just think Arteta is a mad scientist in that will just stroke the fires even more to want to win a Champions League, to win a Premier League, to just simply put, I think just improve the team on a footballing basis, because you don't become a manager if you do not love the game. And we only see on the face of it what he does. We don't see when his wife is telling him to go to bed and he's there looking at spreadsheets and things of that ilk. Declan Rice as well, it's becoming a running joke. The camera panned to him when he said it wasn't done the last time we went and won. So do you know what? You can sing we're not champions of Europe. We will get that one day. I just think it's about raising this. We've raised the ceiling. I think for me, it's about if we can raise the floor. And that's a good question for you, because you mentioned his name here. Where do you stand on Morgan Rogers? Because for me, I like him. I think, when you look in the modern day, I compare him to Ødegaard. And what I mean by that is, it's about off the ball with Ødegaard first and foremost in the modern day, what you do to the system, how you lead the press, etc. And I don't think Rodgers is as good as Ødegaard as that, but I think his willingness to want to do that, I think that's the stuff that will arouse the imagination of Mikel Arteta. Then you talk about the versatility. Now, granted, you could have a debate of long-term, could he play, be a partner with Rice? Could he play in that 10? If you were to name Arsenal's 11, most fans probably expect him to come in off that left-hand side. One thing I think goes under the radar is, for Aston Villa, he played on the right-hand side plenty of times. Now, with the greatest of respect to Noni, I do love Dalman, and obviously I love Saka. That is a great weapon to have in the Arsenal. Where are you at with Morgan Rogers? And for you, do you feel he's actually the right profile we need? Because that has been something that's polarized opinion.
I think what we have learned from Mikel Arteta's time in charge is that he really does value versatility.
Yeah.
You look at where Declan Rice brought in to be a 6, but then became an 8, and then this season was more of a double 6. Kai Havertz brought in as an 8, and he comes in and becomes a striker who scores for us in the Champions League final. Eze can play left, he can play central. Trossard, you go through the list of players who can play in various positions. And I think in particular in the final third and in midfield, Mikel Arteta really values that. So Morgan Rogers, I think, could play left, he could play central, he could play in the Ødegaard position, he could maybe play off the right-hand side if you want, but like you say, you've got Saka, Madueke, Dalman as well. I think what he brings is a kind of directness that we don't necessarily have, a guy who just wants to get on the ball and play a 1-2, play some passes, get into a shooting position and smash it. And whether it's from 25 yards or whether it's from 5 yards, his finishing ability is really, really good. And I listen, I love Declan Rice. I think he's been amazing for Arsenal. But I think if you look at midfield goals, we've been a little bit shy, a little bit lacking. Zubimendi got a few, to be fair. Martin Ødegaard underperformed in terms of goals, I think primarily because of the injuries. But I think goals from midfield is an area that Mikel Arteta really is looking at as a way of adding to the squad. Adding something that we don't necessarily have. And I would sort of draw a slight parallel between Rodgers and Eze in that they have the ability to score a goal that you don't expect to score.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The way Eze...
Magic moments.
Yeah, the way, I always go back to that Man City game that we played, where they beat us 2-1 and everyone was going, oh, it's all over now. Another one of those moments, and
we've had a couple of them throughout the season. To be fair,
but it was 1-1 at the time, and Eze got the ball on the edge of the box just outside the D, and you remember he smashed a shot, keeper's beaten, all ends up, hit the inside of the post, ran across the goal, and ran away. I mean, we're talking that much about that being 2-1,
that fine margins, yeah.
But that's kind of what he can bring, and I think Arteta likes that, and I think he wants a bit more of that in the squad, and that's kind of where I think the interest in Morgan Rogers comes from.
So what do you? I don't want to be that guy, yeah, because I want a reality where Ødegaard's at the top of his game, Rodgers at the top of his game, Eze's at the top of his game, and there's a way that they could all coexist. Obviously, they're all probably competing for spots, but one does wonder, like with Ødegaard probably having 2 seasons of not quite being the guy, him being the captain, us having Eze who's looking settled, Morgan Rodgers who can play there. The fact that although it might be on Berta's to-do list, but we've heard really radio silence around the new deal for Ødegaard. Like, what do you think it means for Ødegaard? And you could throw Wanyeri into the debate as well.
Yeah, you could. I don't see a world where both Ødegaard and Wanyeri are at Arsenal next season. I think one of them will go. I think
Ethan's days are numbered, unfortunately.
I think so too, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame because I don't know that, you know, my sense is, right, and I say this as a fan who isn't privy to all the stuff that Mikel Arteta and his team will be privy to when they make a decision like that, because I don't think anyone can doubt the talent of Ethan Wanyeri. So is there more to it than we know as fans? Probably.
100%.
Do we know exactly what that is? No. I'm not going to sit here and cast aspersions about him as a player or a personality or a character because I just don't know. I wonder, are there financial pressures to an extent where if you sell a Wanyeri or if you sell a Lewis Skelly, as Miles said, pure profit, right? You know, that might be a factor in the decision making. But I don't see a world where both of them are at Arsenal next season. And I think it will be Wanyeri who leaves this summer. Ødegaard, listen, I think there was a time where he was absolutely 100% a first name on the team sheet player for Arsenal. He was at his best. But the last 18 months, and my feeling with Ødegaard is that it's about fitness, because he hasn't been 100% fit and he hasn't been able to get the fluency and he hasn't been able to get the rhythm that you need to play at your very best. And that's not me making an excuse. That's me trying to understand why he is.
I think that's the reality.
I think that's the reality too. Then Arsenal have to make a decision about, well, are we confident that he can overcome those injury issues? Because players do go through periods in their career where they get injured. Dennis Bergkamp, for example, had a 18-month, 2-year period where he really struggled with injury. I think there was a season where he scored like 4 goals for Arsenal.
Because of their injuries.
The quality is there. We all know the quality is there. Once you get beyond the injuries, you start to make an impact and you start to have an influence again. So it's about whether Arsenal are confident that Martin Ødegaard can have that influence again. I think on his day, at his best, in his best form, Ødegaard is a brilliant, brilliant player and a brilliant asset for us. Like I say, though, it's about Arsenal making a decision and thinking, can he do it again at 27, 28? Can he get it back? So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. It'll be interesting to see, you know, how his World Cup goes. I know he got an assist last night with a corner.
From a corner, it was lovely.
Yeah, it was a corner. I've seen people say overall his game wasn't brilliant. I haven't really watched the highlights yet, and maybe you don't. It
was a bit underwhelming, I must admit.
Maybe you don't get the full view on the highlights anyway, you know. So we'll see. But I think if you do have a midfield and you're looking at Rice, Zubimendi, Ødegaard, Marino, Morgan Rodgers, Eberechi Eze in there. If you keep Ødegaard, you're not short on options. And if you sell Wanyeri, you're still not short on options as well. And maybe you have a little more to play with financially to sort of do a deal that might make people a bit less sad about Ethan going if he departs.
That's where I think it comes down to. I think with Wanyeri, the thing that goes with him is he doesn't have a luxury that a Saka or a Smith Rowe, or even to a degree, I know he didn't come from Haaland, Martinelli had in that. We were crap. But let's have it right. Like, we were crap. It's easier to play young players. At this moment in time, we're Premier League champions, Champions League finalists. There's no margin for error type of thing, and everybody's competing. And unfortunately, whether I agree with it or not, Wanyeri's at one of the most horrible places to be for a footballer trying to establish themselves, in the middle of the park. The list you gave of all them players, half of them are big money signings or current international footballers. You go and look on the right-hand side, you've obviously got Dalman. If you get a Rodgers and, you know, I think his name is Zolis, I can never say his name, the guy from Club Brugge, on top of the existing options, there's the pathway. You throw a Kai Havertz and a Marino, who I don't expect to see in midfield week in, week out for Arsenal. they're probably going to be utilized. You mentioned Norgard as well, who can't buy a game. He's probably ahead. And it goes back to what you said. He might just be pure profit. We might look back at Nwaneri in a couple of years and think, why did we sell him? Again, I don't think anyone wants him to go, but it's needs must. You can't have it all. If it was up to me, I'd palm him off on loan for a couple of years. But I'm not saying I agree, but I could understand, because I do think, as much as I'm an Arsenal fan and we've won the title and you like the links and you want us to not rest on our laurels, which I don't think we're going to do, I want us to spend money and things like that. When I kind of look at it on an ad hoc view, there is going to be a degree of Burton needs to look after our resources. You know, between Gabriel Jesus and Reece Nelson, that's over 300,000 a week on two players that aren't really good enough. You've got to get rid of Fabio Vieira. We have to bring money in. You know, Berta is living up to his CV. The one thing he hasn't done is get us some great sales, because there hasn't been the conditions for that. So there's going to have to be unpopular decisions. And maybe for Nwaneri to reach his full potential, he might have to leave and depart Arsenal and set up roots everywhere else. And especially if we sign midfielders or Morgan Rogers, who's essentially a Swiss Army knife, who can play here, there, and everywhere. What do you make of the Tonali and Bawardi links? Because, yeah, I think we need a centre mid. I personally feel you could ask 10 Arsenal fans what we need, and I think the only position we'd probably agree with is probably that left-hand side. But I would like another midfielder, because, as you said, Andrew, if you could have Miles Lewis-Skelly, Declan Rice, Zubamendi, and I think one more on top of all the other options, if it's a need-must thing, I'll shut up about midfield. I'm really confident about that.
Yeah, I like Tonali, but I'm not sure I like the numbers around Tonali. I think he's a decent player, you know, but there's always just been something nagging at me when I watch him play. I think there's quality there. I don't know. There's something, I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes you just
get one in a bit more, in my opinion.
I could have the wrong idea about him. I just feel sometimes there's just something lacking in his game when I see him. And when you see him do good stuff, you can understand why clubs are after him. And I think the reporting is it's Arsenal, Tottenham, and maybe United or something.
Man United,
Chelsea, there'll be clubs after him, I'm sure. Boadi, I think, you know, as an exciting signing, I think is the one where you could really invest a lot in an 18-year-old kid coming in, and you look at what he did the other night against Brazil, and you're just like, oh my god, a couple
more zeros on his price tag.
Well, he absolutely did, you know, and a few more games like that in the World Cup, and he's going to be, you know, he's going to be even more expensive.
Yep.
Is it one of those where, you know, like the way Real Madrid operate, in a way where they go and get a Camavinga early or a Tchouameni early, you know, is that kind of what we need to do? Is that how we need to operate now? That it might be a lot in...
But it pays itself off. I think so.
In this moment in time, it might be more than you're comfortable paying.
But then when he develops, you're going to pay even more than that.
The potential upside is that you're getting, you know, a player who you wouldn't then be able to afford, you know. So he's the one that interests me greatly, I have to say. Tonali, if they go that way, I'll trust their judgment on it, but
Boadi excites.
But Boadi is exciting, and I say that as somebody who knows. I'm not saying I'm watching Lille every week and going, oh yeah, he's the guy. You know, I've been saying this for 2 years. We've got to get that. I'm not that guy. But I recognize where that might be an exciting signing, simply because it is another nod to the future, isn't it? That you're not just building for now, you're building for, you know, generations. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I think there's a lot to play out over the course of this World Cup and beyond.
And that's the only thing. The World Cup is terrible news if you want these players, because the price tags are just going to go up and up. And he's linked with everybody in Europe that can find some pennies to put together. Obviously, he's done his thing at Lille. He's not, I think a lot of fans are a bit naive. He's not one of them guys you have never heard of before. You wake up in the World Cup, he's amazing. When the World Cup's over, you never hear about him. He's had a good reputation at Lille. He's just in front of the world's eyes, because respectfully to Lille, more people are going to watch Brazil, Morocco, for example, than that. Yeah. So I'm with you. I can see the method to the madness with Tonali, especially if Rice isn't there. I do think he's a decent player. The price tag makes me think, oh, I don't know. But Wardy, I like what he could become, man. He's everything that I thought Matteo Guendouzi was going to be, genuinely.
Guendouzi obviously turned out to be a lot less
Yeah. It didn't work out for him at all, man. Like,
no.
But and it's easy for me to fall in love with midfielders like that. Like, I don't think Bawardi's ever gonna get mad goals, mad assists, like even have moments like Declan Rice where he does that kind of talismanic figure. But he's high IQ, he's technically proficient, he's got a solid grounding like of experience that I think Arteta can mold and graft. It's like he'd be going from high school at Lille to university if Arsenal was a formal education. I just think Arteta likes that.
I like university.
That's the kind of guys I want. Like, and I think you made a great point. You either put the money down now, and the seeds will show, or you don't. He develops, he gets better and better, and you think, oh, what kind of if sort of thing. Would you? Before I let you get out of here, I have to ask you. I can never pronounce his name, so I'm just gonna call him the Greek lad from Club Brugge, but I think it's Zolis. We've been linked with him. Yeah, did I get it right? Fair play. What do you make of him? Because many people are. For me, I'm actually for it. As you said, I'm not acting like I'm watching him week in, week out, but just from doing my research, looks like he's got a good experience, a bit like a couple of Arsenal players. He's gone from some good and bad moments in his career. I just think he's a decent player. And I think people need to learn from last season, because I remember Noni was signed. It looked like at a point Eze was going Spurs, Gyökeres wasn't here. Everyone was kind of crashing out. So I think just let the club work, like judge them at the end and have your opinions. But I like him. I like him, but where are you at?
I mean, listen, I can't say I know a great deal about him. Obviously, I've watched a bit and watched a few compilations since we've been linked with him. The big numbers for Club Brugge across all competitions last season, but I think you have to recognize it is the Belgian league, and there is a sort of a significant difference in level between
there's an exchange rate with that.
Yeah, exactly. An exchange rate is a great way of putting it. I think maybe, I don't know, if it was 10 million less expensive, I'd feel more comfortable with it. But at the end of the day, it's not my money. So let them spend what they feel they need to spend. I have a feeling that both Trossard and Martinelli will go this summer.
I'm leaning towards that.
I think we've got to then replace, it could be Rodgers on the left, it could be Eze on the left, it could be Zolis on the left. Who knows? We've got the options there. He looks handy. He looks like he's got quick feet, decent delivery, can score goals, can deliver goals. Again, can he translate that to the Premier League? We'll have to wait and see. But I think as a signing, you can't make every signing the big name and the star name. You have to build your squad out. You have to build your squad out in a different way. And I think he's a guy who's going to do that for Arsenal. So it looks like it's one that's going to happen actually at this point, doesn't it? All the reporting around it makes it
it's ticking in that right direction.
So, judge him when he gets here and judge him on what he does in red and white. And I think the club, to be honest, have generally speaking earned our trust when it comes to the transfers that they've made. They haven't all been brilliant. There's always hit and miss. But I think the talent identification over the last number of years has gone to a different level than it was before, certainly. So I'll trust their judgment on this one.
And like you said there, like if you look at his age profile, he's not just here for the present. He's potentially here with an eye on the future. He's not breaking the wage bill. If I'm honest, we kind of know what we're getting from certain attackers at our team. So why not give him an opportunity? I'm sure they've scouted. I'm not suggesting he's going to be the best thing since sliced bread, but it's either you paid 100-odd million for these players if they are attainable, or you just let scouts do their job. And I know it's not the best of example, but if this guy was to go to a Brentford or Bournemouth and clubs of that ilk, and he was in the Premier League, then 12 months from now, everybody would probably be speaking about signing him. So give the guy a chance. I think it's a good little kind of ceiling raiser. It helps us with depth. I don't think Josh Kroenke, Berta, and Arteta are not thinking about adding more, so we'll have to wait and see whether it is Morgan Rogers and Bukola, and, we're linked with Yan Diomande of Ivory Coast this silly season. But one thing's for sure is, for me, come the end of the season, come the end of the transfer window and the beginning of the season, we will feel a lot more confident in our attack and whatnot, man. Andrew, I'm going to let you get out of it. I know you're a busy man. Okay. It's been a pleasure being here with you, my guy. Where can people find you, even though they should know?
They should know. Arsblog.com. That's where you find everything. And thank you, as always, for having me. It's always good to chat. And thanks to everybody watching. We'll catch you again soon, hopefully.
100%. Got all the time in the world for you, Andrew. It only made sense because we've been through the doom and gloom and had many of a dialogue on this platform with yourself. So it's only right when our spirits are high, man. Make sure you're following Arsblog. It is in the title on YouTube. They're everywhere, here, there, and everywhere. There's not a platform they're probably not on. So go and have a butchers. Andrew, appreciate you. Chat, it couldn't be done without you. So on that note, Andrew, everyone, peace, man. We're out. Catch you all again. One love.